Things are starting to look a little bit dicey for the Veilguard, and that is because of a narrative shift that has occurred over the last week or so. Pretty much up until the reviews started to come out and BioWare had nowhere to hide. I would say you go back a little while ago, and you can make the argument that there was some excitement, some enthusiasm from obviously insane people, but also a lot of normies as well. People who were just going to buy the Veilguard based on the name alone. They weren't really thinking about quality, what they were really going to get. Is this going to be an RPG? These are just people who maybe played Origins, Inquisition 10 plus years ago, and they wanted to see some of those characters that brought back the nostalgia and so on. So there were some people who were going to buy this game. However, since we started to actually see unfiltered, uncut footage of the writing, the dialogue, the companions, and just how ridiculous this title is. For instance, you get a quest line that I believe BioWare stopped reviewers from talking about. I think that was part of the agreement if you reviewed it. The companion quest featuring Tash, beloved Tash, where you go on a journey of identity, self-discovery, where she becomes a non-binary or something and comes out to her mother. Basically just fanfic territory from people who are in the asylum, which is the BioWare developers at this stage. This is basically a self-insert quest for every second BioWare developer, and the people who are insane, who have lost their minds, they think this is fantastic. They think, oh, a non-binary quest, how appealing. This is fantastic for gaming, for the world at large. Surely everyone loves this, right? Because surely the only people who don't want this, it's the right-wing grifters, the anti-woke chuds. They're the only ones, that fringe minority. They're the only ones who wouldn't be interested in this. Those people are quickly finding out, though, that actually no, regular, normal people do not want this. And that's what I mean when I say that they've lost the normies. People with just some sort of passing interest in Dragon Age, they are starting to abandon this. They're making their voice heard that what is going on at BioWare, like this, it's actually crazy. We're not interested in games that pander this much. This isn't just, oh, there's a gay character or some sort of representation that we can ignore or just not think about very much. Like, this is just weird. Weird is describing this game right now, and again, only the crazies are left to defend it. And we'll get to some of them, but I just want to address maybe the argument against this. Because there is a narrative that the game's selling incredibly well. Dragon Age the Veilguard, oh, it's hitting new heights, it's breaking records. I don't think that's really true. Most people are pointing to the global selling numbers on Steam, where Veilguard is number 4 at the moment, to suggest, yes, a lot of people are pre-ordering. Now, that may be true for today, which is, as of making this video, a few hours before release. So, yes, there are a number of people buying it, and they are just people who are going to buy this game no matter what. Dragon Age is a reasonably popular IP name. There are going to be people who are going to purchase this no matter what the reviews say, no matter how bad it looks in video footage. So it's not like this was ever going to bomb and be a Concord or something like that, which had zero name recognition. Like, it was always going to sell somewhat. But what people need to keep in mind is that the Steam charts are just for right now, for today, this very moment. The Veilguard is at number 4. You go back 2 weeks ago and it was actually doing quite poorly for games this close to release, a fortnight from release at that time. It was down to like 50, 60 a few weeks before. It was at like number 200. I've followed it fairly closely. You compare that to other games, for instance, Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero, which likely had a much smaller budget, and it sold very well because of word of mouth, but even before it came out, it was hovering in the top 10 for weeks, maybe months even, doing quite well, much better than the Veilguard's pre-order lifespan. And you look at even Monster Hunter Wilds that comes out in like 4 months. That's currently at number 5, and again, it's a pretty popular IP. I'm sure it's definitely going to sell very well. But the Veilguard hasn't actually had a big pre-order push or anything like that. People are buying it right now. It'll probably move, I'd say, a few million copies. But what's the ceiling? Because the word of mouth, I've got a feeling it's not going to be very positive based on some of the reviews, the more genuine reviews like Skill Up and Mr. Matty Plays versus the corrupt mainstream IGN ones and so on, I don't think it's going to do too well with the consumers once they start talking. So the ceiling, maybe it only is sort of 3-4 million. And EA, the publisher, keep in mind, just a year or so ago, they put out the Dead Space remake. It was very good. It got positive reviews. Wouldn't have had a massive budget given it was just a graphic remake. It sold 2 million copies, and EA said, nah, that's not going to justify future Dead Space entries. We're canning the series for now. And that was 2 million copies, pretty low budget game, you would say, in comparison to the Veilguard, which has had 5 years or something. BioWare has over 1,000 employees, I think it is, pretty large company. I think it needs to move 10 plus million copies. There'll be big expectations, given Cyberpunk, Baldur's Gate 3, other RPGs that have done huge numbers. EA would be expecting something like that for the Veilguard. So I'm not sure people pointing to the Steam charts and so on is going to be enough. It's going to have to do pretty decent numbers, I think, for BioWare to survive. And again, the only people defending this game at this point, it's not the normies, they've lost them. It's purely lunatics at this stage, as evidenced by this post on Reddit, Gaming Circle Jerk, which has so many lovely people. If you venture in here, I pity you. But we can see them post here, Dragon Age Veilguard made my beloved character apologize for misgendering someone. This is DEI sensitivity training. They're trying to make fun of just regular people who think this is ridiculous. In their little echo chamber, their deluded fantasy world, it's totally normal. This scenario in the game, which many of you have probably seen, but to recap, what happens is an old beloved character from the Dragon Age universe returns, makes a bit of a cameo appearance, and they accidentally make the grave mistake of referring to Tash, one of the Canary companions, referring to her as a she, instead of a they, them. And it's interesting because Tash starts the game, I believe, as a she, but goes through a journey, and now they're a they, them. So this companion makes the mistake of misgendering, and then instead of even just apologizing and acknowledging it, no, they're gonna do 10. They're gonna get on the ground and do 10 push-ups, because actions speak louder than words. And they don't even just leave it there. They all start banging on about, oh, if you verbally apologize, now you're even worse than simply misgendering, because now you're making it all about you. And it should be about them, because they're non-binary, which means they're attention-seeking. So no, you've got to give them the attention. Make it about them. Don't make it about you, or you're a very evil, bad person. Becomes a very big lecturer. And to these people, perfectly normal, apparently. But they're shocked. They're scratching their heads as to why everyday people find this weird. They simply cannot believe it. And there's an interesting message from someone here who's apparently played the game. I'll read this out. They say, Tasha's personal quest is entirely about her coming to terms with her non-binary lifestyle and getting past her mother's disapproval. You cannot ignore it or select anything other than various forms of I support you when going through a personal quest. Just quality RPG mechanics, great stuff. I believe it is also impossible to get the best ending if you don't max your affinity for the protag. So basically, in order to get the best ending in the game, you are forced to support and affirm the non-binary agenda. You cannot simply ignore it. Now, the comments are very illuminating because it's not simply people saying, come on, this isn't weird, this is great stuff, great content. Why are you going to be a weirdo and criticize getting down for 10 push-ups when you misgender? Come on, guys, don't be doing that. They're not actually just defending it. They make it very clear that they also are in agreement that this is propaganda, but they think it's a good thing. They think it's a great thing, and every single developer should be learning from them. So they're basically just going mask off at this point. Someone says here, oh, you can't actually get the best ending if you don't actually support the LGBT community. Based, honestly, every developer should take note. So according to these people, in every game, before you can complete it, before you can get the proper ending, there should at the very least be some sort of prompt where you have to, yes, I agree, I'm totally on board with whatever political agendas are currently being pushed by the mainstream. You can't finish the game until you go through a bit of a re-education questline where you need to look at yourself in real life. Forget about the game immersing yourself in a fantasy universe. No. This game, entertainment, it's got to be about more. It's going to be about you taking a hard look in the mirror and realizing you need to think like these people. That's their dream for gaming culture. They're, again, going mask off. And someone also says here, the scene is cute, and I actually learned something. So forget about fun. You're having fun? No, let's learn together. Come on, there's so much we can learn from Tash on her non-binary journey. It also isn't that far from real life, actually. Now, if you listen to this dialogue, in the game, that skill up described as being like HR is in the room. Normal, regular people, they do not speak like this. They only speak like this if you're fearful for losing your job in big corporation. I have a friend in the army, and they do push-ups instead of apologies as well if they fuck up. Oh, perfect comparison. I cannot believe it. I'm sure all of the blue-haired pronouns in their bio scales break when they step on them. Employees at BioWare have a lot of army experience. That's probably what they drew from for this game, no doubt. And then the next person says, Tasha's writer is non-binary themselves. So I imagine this is going to be an incredibly accurate portrayal of non-binary experience. Yes, incredibly accurate if you live in your own fantasy-deluded world where people cross the street to avoid you at all costs, and you don't speak to anyone in reality ever. So you, in your mind, create the idea of what would it be like if I ever spoke to someone in real life, and what would they say? What would I say back? That's basically the Veilguard experience. It's written by people who've never had a real life conversation, let's be totally honest. And then you've got Reset Era, who are also losing their mind. In fact, the Skill Up review, the negative one of the most scathing ones, is banned from Reset Era because apparently the guy who runs the channel is a chud, so we can't even hear his opinion. It's the old Hogwarts Legacy all over again, where in their little brainless universe, they were actually under the impression that we're the mainstream. If we ban discussion of Hogwarts Legacy, then the game's definitely gonna fail, and then it sold like 25+ million copies, and no one could give a toss what these people think, because they're fucking weird. But they're discussing Veilguard here, and all the good reasons there would be to play it, and they list here, no de novo DRM. Yes, I can agree that's a good thing. No EA app. That's a thumbs up as well. Steam Deck verified. Amazing PC port, apparently. But this is the key one. It makes the chuds mad. Do I buy this game on principle alone? Because, come on, we're owning the chuds. That's number one reason, priority one, to play this. And I always find this weird because when it was Stellar Blade, or any other game like that wasn't pushing an agenda and people acknowledged, hey, that's a good thing that you're just making a game for entertainment, there's nothing weird that's going on, these people melted down about that and said, you're the strangest person out there, you're insane if you're interested in a game because the developers aren't trying to push political messages onto you. But for these people, no, it's totally justified. If we're making the right people angry, if our game is just absolutely political propaganda, we're not subtle at all, totally shameless, the entire thing is in your face, basically is some sort of re-education tool now, it's certainly not just entertainment, it's something else entirely. Now that's a good thing, and we should buy it on principle. And people agree. This isn't a cherry-picked comment. There's lots of people agreeing. Didn't think of this. Owning the chuds, I might get this now. My sentiments exactly, LMAO. So that's basically where we stand now. It's only the insane asylum who is interested, and the normies have deserted this. The table is basically flipped, because again, I think a few weeks ago, the sort of regular average person, they were probably convinced, they were fooled by people like this into thinking that the Veilguard, oh no, it's just the anti-woke grifters who are melting down and they're getting outraged and overreacting about this title. I'm sure it's just a normal RPG. I mean, EA and BioWare with their marketing, that's what they've been getting across. But now those people have realized absolutely not. Every normal person realizes that this looks pathetic, it's embarrassing. You wouldn't want to be caught playing this because you may be ostracized by family and friends if they find out that you have any interest in playing this awful product. And for me, I've been thinking about this. Am I gonna actually bother playing the Veilguard at this point? Because it's so much worse than I could have ever imagined. I thought, yes, it's gonna have some problems, but surely BioWare haven't totally jumped off the cliff, and it's that bad. It is. It's worse than anyone ever expected. So I've got two choices. I can play this, or I can gouge out my own eyes. I'm leaning towards the latter, but you never know. I may play it. I may do a proper review, we'll just have to see. But it's coming out in a few hours from making this. We'll start to see impressions very soon. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.